Hello fellas! Today we are going to take a look inside this book, which for me is the most amazing reference material I have ever encountered. And not just this book, but the entire series. And before we start, I want to say that I have no affiliation with the publisher whatsoever. They don't pay me to say anything. I bought this with my own money, so there is that. Now this book is part of the monograph series, the 3D edition series from Kagero Publishing, and this is the first volume of the Arado Ar234 monography, and it is quite a comprehensive guide on all the details, or most of the details, inside and out this airplane. So without further ado, let's start our journey through this book and let's see what's inside. First, here we have quite an extensive list of other books that you might be interested in. So first here we start with some history and some historical images, time period images of this airplane. This might have a lot of value for dioramas and probably some guesstimating of the weathering, but I personally am more interested in the details, which these photos are not really providing. But here we start to get more detailed, and we can see that we have some pictures of a mock-up, which I believe is original factory mock-up of this airplane, and this can be quite useful. For instance, we have some fuel lines or something similar going on here at the top of the fuel tank to get some idea of how this thing looked like, because it is pretty impossible to find photos of this aircraft from this angle. Some more pictures from this time period of some armament, the engines, and other interesting things. Of course, we go through the different variants and some more mock-up images, which offer quite a detailed look inside the cockpit of this particular version of the aircraft. And this continues for quite a while, because these guys have done a great job of actually making this research for this book. Now here we have the quad engine version, and we have some beautiful view from the top of the engines, which can be very useful. More cockpit layouts. As you can see, all is wooden, so this is not the real aircraft, this is some mock-up prototype thing. There is a lot of information, of course, in the text, but it's too much for me to tell you what it is. So here we have a 1/72 scale drawing with all the rivets. And before we get to the main part piece, I have to show you that there are more drawings. One sheet, giant one in 1/32 scale, which is amazing. And again we have this with all the rivets and good things. And we have another sheet with 1/48 scale drawings, which is just amazing, very good. And now we come to the 3D portion of this. As you can see, they have made three-dimensional objects of many parts, so we can see exactly how this looks. You can see how beautiful the framework is done in many angles. So should you decide to do your canopy as it was in the real aircraft, you have the reference to do it. Some more canopy details, the opening part of the canopy, of course, how the plexiglass or whatever this is bolted down to the construction, to the framework. More hatches, the actual transparent parts, how they are bolted on, which is really interesting. Some levers, of course, which you can replicate. This is the pilot seat frame, and you can see the pilot seat itself. Of course, colors and stuff like this can be questioned, but anyhow, we have a beautiful representation of the rudder pedals with all the cables and I guess hydraulics. I mean, look at how many different angles you have to actually replicate this stuff. The control yoke, the instrument panel is simply stunningly done. And then we have the various console controls, switches, buttons, knobs, dials, what have you. Many cool images with high detail. The periscope, some other instruments. Then we have a full overview of the cockpit layout and more of that. It is simply a beautifully done, maybe textbook example of how to make a reference book. Here is the nose gear. I think this is in gear up position, and then we have the gear down position, which is interesting. Here we have the gear together with the gear well and the bulkhead, and here we have the main gear legs with the wheels. Again, very nicely done, good 3D. With all kinds of straps or brackets for the hoses and cables. Here we have with the gear bay doors laid out and how it all comes together inside the gear base when the gears are folded. And we start to take a look inside the gear base. Very nicely done. A few pictures of the whole aircraft from different angles with some hint of weathering to make it more interesting. It looks rather good actually. And after this we have a few pictures of an aircraft that I think is located in the USA, preserved one, but restored obviously. And I guess this is the aircraft that they have taken their measurements from and made their models. So here we have also very nice detail about the cockpit itself, about the interior aircraft. And finally we get a few camouflage schemes with, of course, explanation what's that aircraft, from where it is, and stuff like that. And this is it with this book. The only thing that it is missing for me is the engine details. I don't know if there is something about the engines in the second volume of this series. I haven't bought this yet. I cannot find a review of that because I don't want to buy it if there is more of the same or just different versions. But if you know reviews of the second volume, please let me know so I can make a educated choice. So I hope you found this book review interesting, and if you did so, let me know so I can make more of these. I personally find these kinds of book very good investment for us scale modelers, so I hope you enjoyed this video. So until next time, happy modeling, fellas!